Hi, I'm Dan from Earthchain, the automated carbon accounting platform. This episode focuses on Scope 3, specifically food emissions which fall under purchased goods and services. This isn't just relevant for restaurants and the hospitality industry. You might be a transport company selling food on board your trains or your aircraft, or a school or a college or a co-working space with a cafe or a canteen. The emissions from food vary enormously depending on what ingredients you use and what kind of foods you sell. If you try to use spending data alone, you very quickly run into problems. You're either calculating emissions based on sector averages for agriculture or food production, or supplier-wide emissions factors which don't bear any relation to the product mix that you buy. And if you try to manually calculate the emissions based on line items, you have a huge amount of manual work locating good quality data sets, classifying each line item to match an emissions factor in the dataset. And furthermore, you have to perform manual conversion between units, also weights and measures. Food emissions factors are usually based off the weights, but many foods are actually sold by volume, which can be challenging to convert. And finally, with the traditional spend-based methods, the results are simply not actionable. You could, in theory, reduce your carbon footprint by buying cheaper food, and I think we all know that cheaper food is usually more carbon intensive than more expensive alternatives. Here's a quick demo in Earthchain. So I've just dropped in a itemized food order which contains all the information about a delivery with various different food products in there in this column. Each of those is measured by weight or volume, various different units at play here. We have the quantity of items delivered and we have the price per unit for each of those items as well. That's processing on Earthchain now and it's actually just finished. So let's open that one up and take a look inside. So each of those items on the itemized order have been classified by Earthchain, identified as food products. We've used that identification then to look up the food emissions factor from the Agribelize food emissions factor data set. Then here's another one. This is avocados, for example. Here we've done a weights and measures conversion from grams to kilos, just what we need to input into that emissions factor calculation. Where it gets a little bit more interesting is where we have liquids involved that are sold by volume. So here's some olive oil that's sold in 2-litre packages, which we then use the food density of olive oil to convert that into kilos and then use that to look at the emissions factor. So there's a bit more to it. If you were doing this by hand, it would be quite cumbersome. It would take quite a long time, which is why people tend to rely on spend-based emissions calculation for things like this. But it's less actionable. When we do this with the actual foods, think about the decisions you can make. You can decide exactly what product mix to buy or look at the most, let's say, greenhouse gas intensive foods that you sell and consider alternatives and better variants. And when we're done, we can commit that to our ledger and view it all in the analytics and report upon it. So I hope this demo showed you how Earthchain accelerates data collection and carbon accounting to save you valuable time. The results are granular, evidence-based, fully auditable, and they help you take real focused action. So get in touch via our website to start accelerating your carbon reporting.